Is the ad over? Oh shit, I forgot to add the music to this channel. Is the ad over, by the way? I don't know. All of my ad timers say something different, so whatever, I guess. Let's see. But due to a very dull roar, be good. Let me see here. Okay, let's see. How does that sound? Can you even hear it? Is it all fucked up or is it just me?
Is it all fucked up or is it just me?
Oh shit. No, we don't.
Is it all fucked up?
Whoops. Okay, but I think it's probably fine. Okay. Anyways. Okay, so if you have not been keeping an eye on my YouTube because it's been dead for months and months and months, I did make a post yesterday, the other day, whatever, that I'm going to be catching up on all of the patch notes that I have missed because I'm inconsistent. So that's what we're going to be doing today. And then when we're done, we'll go play the game and check out the newest patch and see what kind of chaos is happening in game, because it's been a little bit chaotic in Discord. Anyways, I'm rambling now. Back to the patch notes. So we're going to be starting in February. Thank you for those biddies. Hello. So anyways, yes, so we're going to be starting in February because the last video I put on YouTube was at the end of January, 8 months ago. So we have 8 months of patch notes to catch up on, so let's get to it. So we have February, beginning of February, February 7th. What happened in February? A handful of critical fixes to the server, including temporarily rolling back riposte damage so that NPCs aren't one-shotting you. I remember that. That hurt. Fixing a rare exception that could cause a zone to crash, and fixing a loot table bug that was causing items to drop at unexpectedly low rates. Yes, I remember that very well. This update server only and requires no client-side patching, and we don't care about that. QA, blah blah blah. We're not going to read all of the details, obviously, because not all of it is still relevant, like the QA thing, obviously. And my glasses are dirty. Very dirty. So let's clean those up a little bit. Oh, I'm not sure that that helped very much. Anyways, fixed a server-side exception for buffs and debuffs. Fixed a loot table issue with initialization that was causing drop rates for some items to deviate from their intended rates. Yes, that one is an important one to highlight there. Reduced riposte damage is temporary until we can properly separate NPCs and player riposte, which I'm pretty sure that is fixed now. QA is talking about QA server stuff here. Now this was before we had the QA server actually up and functioning. That is good. We do have QA now, so that is not relevant. Works in progress, not relevant. Well, I mean, it is relevant, but not relevant at this time. We also had itemization V2. We're in the midst of working through all items in the game and rebalancing their stats. The general goal is to allow for items to be more easily distinguishable from one another and feel like upgrades as you progress through them. This also allows for a more clear-cut difference between items dropped from 1 chevron, 2 chevron, and 3 chevron uncommon mobs, imbued, and rare items. A change of this magnitude will require quite a bit of time on QA, but we feel that it will have an overall positive impact on the game. Let me just tell you right now, that is still not complete. Unfortunately. Wish it was. Wish I could say that was complete, but it is not. Grimstone Canyon, we have that in the game. But they were working on it in February. It was on its way to the design phase, yeah. Technical details. This is the important part. A loot table fix. The past several weeks, the community has raised the alarm about our loot tables failing after a period of time, and I am both happy and sad to announce that they were right. Albeit only partially right. They were indeed failing, but it had nothing to do with the passage of time. Let me explain. Since this issue was reported, I've been poring over the code to try and figure out where the problem might be. The first step was reproducing the problem, which unfortunately was something we could not do locally. Our loot tables in the editor have a sample button which allows us to take a large number of samples at once and examine the drop count of each item returned. The great thing about this button is that it uses the exact same code path as NPCs do when they generate their loot, which means that looting an NPC X number of times is equivalent to hitting the sample button X number of times in the editor. After every report of broken loot, we would inspect and test the item's loot table via the above-mentioned sample below button. Every single item we investigated returned the expected result on the respective loot tables. What made no sense was that things would work normally and suddenly stop later in the week. Nothing in the code depends on time or how many times a loot table has been sampled. So the idea that the loot table would just stop working made no logical sense. This means that you were all crazy and it was just RNG. Right? You see, as a developer, it is very difficult to track down nebulous bugs. The feeling throughout the community was that something was wrong, but we had no hard data showing us that anything was actually wrong. All we had was anecdotal experience that were varied wildly in the what, who, when, where department. Some things are meant to be rare, i.e. the Thief's Blade, so some reports were chalked up to a bad streak of RNG. Other reports, however, were a bit more concerning as the reported drop rates were much lower than what we expected, like the croc teeth. The first step in learning more about this problem was identifying specific items that were of concern, figuring out what they had in common, and running some experiments on the live server. I had gotten a report about a specific torch dropped from a specific mob in Redshore Exile's freehold. There were a few players roaming that zone upwards of 12 hours a day, which gave them a good general sense of what the drop rate was for that particular item. They had kept me informed of the drop rate throughout the week, and on Friday they reported that the torch had stopped dropping. I logged into the GM zone on live and spawned 100 of these NPCs to validate the drop rate of the torch. Everything checked out as expected. This told me that the loot table was operational and any issues were unlikely related to the length of time the zone was up. Next, I headed to the Exile Freehold and started spawning these mobs. Lo and behold, a torch dropped. I continued spawning them until I hit 100 NPCs and was able to validate that the torch was dropping at the intended rate. Later that day, the original reporter notified me that the torch was once again dropping. This is where I start to question my own sanity. Did my experiment somehow reset the loot table so that players were now getting the drop again? After poring over the code again, I convinced myself that this was not the case. Nothing in the code paths suggested that my manual spawning of NPCs should have had any impact on the actual results. Torches continued to drop up until patch day, so I kept my ear to the ground for the next item that I would run my experiment on. During this time, I've also been leveling my character. I reached level 14 and had been assigned the Croc Teeth quest. This seemed like a perfect opportunity to get down in the trenches and see what the drop rate was for myself. Needless to say, I killed a few hundred crocs over the span of 3 days, and was able to obtain the quest item in question. After discussing the intended drop rate with Adric, this is when I realized that something was indeed going on. To make matters even more confusing, Drendon was able to obtain the quest item after about 20 croc kills on my second day. This told me that something was broken, but not completely broken. And this is likely the reason why player reports had been so nebulous and varied. The loot tables had been gaslighting all of us. Shortly thereafter, a theory of what was happening hit me like a ton of bricks. In order to understand the issue, one has to understand a little about the structure of our loot tables. To make Adric's life easier, I developed something called a loot table variant, which is basically an extension of another loot table. These are used in various ways throughout the game. But if we look at the Croc Teeth example from above, the loot table structure might look something like this. Rare Croc loot table, Croc loot table, River Croc loot table. Or in other words, Croc loot table in the middle, and it has 2 branches, Rare Croc and River Croc. Where the Croc loot table represents a base or parent loot table, this would contain items shared by all crocs, such as worn teeth and reagents. Then when we have 2 loot table variants, Rare and River, which essentially extend the base loot table. The River Croc table adds the quest item of the Unbroken Teeth, while the Rare Croc adds rare items. Next, we have to understand how loot tables are initialized. When they are first accessed, the loot table assigns normalized probabilities to each item, sorts by normalized probability, and then calculates a random number or threshold for each individual item. Let me repeat that. When they are first accessed, the loot table assigns a normalized number probabilities to each item, sorts by normalized probability, and then calculates a random number threshold for each individual item. It is important to remember that this process happens once, and those values do not change after initialization. At least, they aren't supposed to. Now here is where the problem comes into play. The loot table variants have to rebuild their entire loot table at runtime, since they are extending another loot table. In other words, we want the new extended loot table to be independent from the original, so we end up making a copy of the original before combining it with the extended items. In code, these loot table entries are what we call a class, and classes are what we call reference types. All this means is that any code referencing that particular item is just looking for a specific chunk of memory. In other words, anyone making changes to that specific item would be making those changes for anything referencing that specific item. As it turns out, when building the loot table for each loot table variant, it wasn't actually making a copy of the entry. It was instead just copying the reference to it. This meant that upon initialization of each loot table variant, it was also changing the random number threshold of items inside the base loot table. Once I realized what was happening, everything started to make sense. Why sometimes things worked for a while and then stopped, or why sometimes never happened at all. In this specific croc example, the sequence of events was causing the failure is as follows. Someone loots a river croc. The river croc loot table is initialized, which in turn modifies the random number threshold inside the croc loot table. 2. All loot continues to drop normally from river crocs until someone loots a rare croc. The rare croc loot table is initialized, which in turn again modifies the random number thresholds inside of croc loot table. 4. Loot stops dropping normally for river crocs until a server reset. This is because the items from the croc loot table are still in the river crocs combined table, but the thresholds have been changed for the base items. Depending on the configuration of the loot table, results can vary wildly. But in the river crocs case, the drop rate went from around 10% down to about 0.5% due to the reassignment of the base loot table's random number threshold. I was able to verify this was happening in the editor once I understood what was going on. Thankfully, the solution was simple enough. Make a true copy of the loot table entry when building each loot table variant. Too long didn't read. This week I identified and fixed an issue with loot tables that was causing some items to drop at drastically lower rates than we intended. Thank you for continuing to bug us about it. Ooh. So, yes, that was, I was talking about loot tables. We're going over old patch notes. This was in February. And a lot of us, right off the bat, as soon as the game launched, we knew, we could tell that something was wrong with the loot table. And it took us until February to convince Undone that something was in fact wrong with the loot table. And so this was the whole explanation of that problem that we had with the loot table and how he discovered it and fixed it. Thankfully, we don't have that problem anymore. Also, hi. Welcome in. Okay, so we can go to the next one. Which, let's see, we were on February 7th. Oh, right, because we were still doing weekly live patches, I think, at this point. So this was February 14th. Didn't push anything to live. It was just some back-end changes, bug fixes, working on QA. Nothing really happened that week. Let's see. Let's do February 28th. Let's see. This patch is likely the largest change set we have ever delivered at one time, and it includes new quests, a new zone, numerous bug fixes, quality of life enhancements, and performance improvements. Your banks have more space, merchants allow you to buy back things, and your fellow players will suffer embarrassing losses to your weighted dice. Yes, this was a big patch. Okay, no problem. Moving development cadence to a monthly live patch. Okay, so this was right after we switched to monthly patches. Moving development cadence to a monthly live patch has proved thus far to be more productive than our previous weekly release schedule. It's much easier to push content and fixes to QA frequently when we don't have to worry about breaking the game. We received a ton of feedback from QA over the past few weeks, and we'd like to thank everyone in the community who provided that feedback. You can expect QA to open up again once we get some more content, blah blah blah. Now QA is pretty much up most of the time. He doesn't really take it down very often, except for when he needs to, you know, push a new QA build. Let's see, there was performance fixes, fixed a major per frame allocation with the vegetation rendering system, adjusted the pixel error of overland zone terrains. This results in less accurate terrain mesh at a distance for moderate performance boost. Disabled volumetric fog, anti-stropy, whatever that word is. It should give a moderate performance improvement at the cost of less dynamic lighting. This should also further reduce the washed out look when looking towards the sun. It should help everyone, but will be the most noticeable for those running higher than 1080p. Disabled double-sided rendering for all water materials in the game. This should yield a minor performance improvement when water is in the scene. Cloud reflections are now updated over multiple frames for a minor performance boost in overall scenes. Added destination caching for pathing NPCs. This should significantly reduce the load NPCs place on the server navigation system in some situations. In other words, improved server performance. Tech fixed a number of client-side exceptions, fixed issues where players were considered to be crouching while holding a torch, fixed issues with feared NPCs not running away, fixed an issue with NPCs where feared NPCs could still attack, fixed issues with the center screen announcements not showing, reverted max cloud shadow distance back to where it was before disco time was introduced. Slightly increased animation lerp rates. Whatever. Camera dampening is now turned off by default to make things a bit snappier. You can re-enable this in your gameplay options. Camera dampening eases the camera movement between different movement speeds, kind of like kind of an easing that happens most noticeable when your character stops or starts moving. Disco time. Yeah, so disco time was when he had turned on some new fancy shader stuff or whatever, and it was making the sun flicker like really bad, like a disco. It was like a disco. It was like strobe lighting flashing really bad at certain times in certain areas. We dubbed it disco time. And so he was fixing that in this patch. Environment art, fix some prop issues in various zones, fix some stuck spots, fix some texture issues, fixed a number of missing diffusion profiles on vegetation items that were causing them to be overly green. Fixed missing visual for Kite Shield. Fixed some ambient lighting color in some dungeons, added a new targeting reticle. Actually, I really liked when we got that targeting reticle. Yeah, you missed that. Although sometimes you can still find a spot or two with some disco going on if you have the right settings, I suppose. I get it every now and then, very, very rarely, usually in Meadowlands. with like trees doing weird things. Meadowlands is such a problem child. Let's see, where was I? Oh yes, the targeting reticle. I still greatly appreciate that change. That was a nice one. Learning animation replaced with the book reading animations. Updated the road signs in Meadowlands. Disabled some non-functional anvils. Reduced the bloom post-processing effect intensity and ubiquity. Hopefully this will further help with the washed out visuals some people have mentioned. Adjusted humanoid skin material to reduce light bleed when close to light sources. Reduce shininess of humanoid skin slightly. Reduce the size of forestry logs. Adjusted stun attack animations. Added a water ripple visual effect when moving through water. Added new swimming animations. And increased the cloud shadow quality. Let's see, audio. Male and female jump audio clips are now more consistent. Pitch and variation is reduced as well. Normalized a number of animal audio clips. These could likely still use some work, but hopefully they're better than they were before. Increase the frequency of ground sampling for your character to produce more accurate footstep audio. Added a water slosh audio when moving through water. UI fixed bank locations being swapped on the city map. Fixed trigger count not decreasing on target dummies and rat's nests and ant hills. Fixed trigger chance not appearing on tooltips for some abilities. Fixed some items not properly updating in the trade window. Fixed exceptions when adding item links to chat. Fixed an issue where some players were not receiving group invites. Fixed an issue where you could select different character via the arrow keys after hitting enter world. Fixed incorrect font usage on character creation input box. Fixed an issue where you could not repair individual items while missing your bag as it was not properly checking your stash for cash. Fixed an issue where you were unable to purchase a bank expansion even if you had the appropriate funding until you relogged. Fixed crafting and harvesting books now have correct blue and red requirement tooltips based on the level of a required skill. Gathering tools now require the level of the appropriate skill to use. Previously, they were only checking against the highest skill. Extended ASCII, whatever that means, character support to the chat font, accents, and etc. Okay. Added Bees of Noggle toggle to game options. That's the reading a book thing. You can actually toggle the reading a book to be the Bees of Knowledge, which is what it originally was. But some people really hated it, so we got the book reading instead, but you can toggle it. Anyways. Added legacy jump audio, because if you want weird squeaky voices, there you go. Added a consider keybind option, which echoes the chevron colored difficulty tooltip text to the chat. What? Added a consider keybind option, which echoes the chevron and color difficulty tooltip text to the chat. This is unbound by default. See, this is why we're doing this, because I don't even remember that being a thing. Now I gotta go in my keybinds and look at it, because I didn't know you could do that. Apparently you can do that. You can hit a keybind that will tell you what the mob difficulty is in the chat box. That's cool. Added tips to loading screens. Added notifications to chat when abilities rank up. Added a who command to the player context menus. God, it feels like this is more recent than it is, I guess. Time is just going way too fast. Let's see. Tabs on skills and crafting UI are now slightly more pronounced and hopefully a bit more noticeable. Leave group icon changed from the X to a logout icon. Same one used for leave guild. Experience bar below the icon action bar will now more intelligently select another role, profession, or track if you forget the selected one. Does it show for others? I'm not sure. It might, but it might not. I'm not sure. Gotta go try it out, I guess. Tooltips are now more opaque. One day I'll get a slider so you can adjust it yourself, but for now I've made them less seed transparent. Undone in his typos. Less seed transparent? Okay. Loot roll results are now sorted in chat by need greed pass. Within each category, rolls are sorted by value and then the name of the winner always appearing at the top of the results. Highlighting items when their counts increase. Oh, like on your bar. So if you pick up a reagent that's on your bar, goes directly onto your bar, it'll get a little highlight when it's added to the stack. Highlighting bag icons at the upper right when items are added to your bag, gathering bag, or equipment. Adding visual effects overhead of NPCs that are feared. Improve combat logging for dots and hots and other applications. Increased maximum bank size to 8x8 slots for both your personal and shared banks. Each row now has 2 additional slots. This will cause your items to shift position, so you may want to reorganize things. Yes, when we went from, was it 5, 6 to 8x8? That was great. Yeah, I gotta bind that ASAP. Yeah, it's called Consider. Look for the key binding called Consider. Let's see, designs. Short bows and crossbows reduce delay from 5 seconds to 4 seconds. One-handed mace flanking bonus changed from pen to hit. Rocalo knuckles have damage hit now instead of avoid block. Fixed an issue with ashen toads referencing the wrong loot tables. Fixed an issue with ashen ant loot tables not including ash. Fixed issue with mobs always using the lowest level of specialization skills such as Venom Strike. Riposte ability split into player and NPC versions. Player version has higher damage and threat multipliers. Increased base speed of mandrakes. Increased respawn rate for various camps around Redshore. Mob ability vice grip. Gosh, English. Hello. Duration increased. Effects that are triggered via attack hit, such as Quillback Spines, Viper Toxins, Hemorrhaging Strike, Open Wound, and other damaging skills, will no longer miss when they fire off. Instead, they will always score a normal hit. Adjusted gap between low and high tier T. Deer leaves add duration. It's okay, English is hard sometimes. It really is. And I need to actually like zoom in because hello, zoom in please, because this text is freaking tiny. Okay, how's that look? Does that still look okay? Whatever. Not like you're reading it anyways. Hey, thank you. Hi, Riv. How are you? How are you doing? I was thinking about you just a few days ago, actually. It's funny. You must have felt my brain vibes. Okay, where was I? Just a gap between T's. Fiction issue with silk materials not keeping their material prefix. Added flatworms to Redshore Ridge. Added new consumables and crafting items to the Redshore Merchant. Poplar recipe available at 25 instead of 46. Oh, right. Yeah, the poplar. Enabled dynamic threat scaling for disengage. Ability patch. Reduced healing amount by 10%. Added new level 34 abilities. Note that these abilities, once learned, are lost when your spec is dropped and relearned, meaning you will have to reacquire these abilities if you switch. Given that this scenario is unlikely to occur often, we deferred fixing this to focus on other higher priority items. Quests. Added default dialogue to fill in New Haven Valley. Fixed a few miscellaneous typos. New quests. Frontiers Revenge, Circle Expedition, In the Forest of Madness, Stone and Bones. Stone and Bones. Where's Stone and Bones? I don't think I've picked that one up. Maybe it's a really high level quest. The Hunt, the Great Hunt, the Eye in the Sky, and fight for the Freehold. Stone and Bones. Where is that? I'm gonna have to figure that out. I haven't done Stone and Bones. It might be like, you know, a level 35, 40 quest or something for all I know. You're doing well, you got your old Discord account back. Oh, that's great. Pretty happy with that. Also got a better job. That's amazing to hear. I'm glad you got a better job. Thinking of you a few days ago too. Same wavelength, I swear. Yeah, that's crazy. It's crazy how that works, isn't it? Like, and I'm feeling okay at the moment. Not gonna get into that right now. Let's see. New stuff. Ah, yes, this is when we got dueling. If you ever wanted to face off against another player, well, now you can with dice. Our game is strictly a PvE game, and the back-end system, we are designed with that in mind. Enabling any sort of player versus player combat would require significant engineering time, for which we are in short supply of. Given that our game is heavily based on dice, we thought it appropriate to add duels by dice rolls in place of the actual player versus player fighting. Duels in our game are nothing more than a classic death roll. The way these work is the starting player rolls a 100-sided die, their opponent then rolls a die with as many sides as the result of the previous player's roll. This process continues until someone re-rolls a 1 and they are deemed the loser. So, as an example, let's say Undone and Drinden duel. It might look something like this. Undone rolls a 1d100, gets a 74. Drinden rolls a 1d74, gets a 53. Undone rolls a 1d53, gets a 23. Drinden rolls a 1d23, gets a 4. Undone rolls a 1d4, gets a 4. Drinden rolls a 1d4, gets a 1. Loses. I'm sorry. Do we have an ad? Fuck. We have an ad going? Shit, I can't snooze. I'm sorry, you guys are gonna get an ad if you haven't already. You're not? Well, it says it's starting soon. I don't know what soon means, but you're not seeing an ad. Okay, well, if I notice one pop up, I will wait for it. Oh, there it goes. We're just waiting for the ad to pass for the viewers on Twitch. And unfortunately, I am not going to be able, well, unless YouTube has added some kind of editing tools that I'm not aware of, I don't think I'll be able to edit this sort of stuff out. So I'm sorry, it's gonna be a long YouTube video. But hey, you know, maybe I will get some watch time out of it because goodness knows I need it. Back now? The ad's over because it doesn't show over on my screen. Okay, now it says it's over. Anyways, whatever. So there's delay. We're back, right? Correct? Okay, cool. Julio. Okay, so anyways, back to dueling. During this rolling process, players will lose a fraction of their health proportional to the difference in their opponent's roll and their last roll. This is always a fraction of your health and should never knock you out. This is simply to simulate the duel. The loser will fall to their knees and beg for forgiveness. The winner will perform a random dance emote to gloat, and the results will be broadcast to the entire zone. To duel someone, simply execute the /duel opponent name or death roll opponent name chat command, or select duel from right-clicking on the player's nameplate. Players must remain within 10 meters of the initial duel spot, otherwise, the player leaving the area will forfeit the duel. Duel requests from blocked players will be declined automatically. Duels are not legally binding, unless you want them to be. A lot of times people will like duel for an item or something if both people need it, or just for funsies or whatever. Beg and dance, yeah, it's great. It's pretty great, I'm not gonna lie. There's one of the dance where you like do like a twerking sort of move. The first time that happened to me, I died. I absolutely died. To my character all decked out in like this armor set, like looking like a crocodile or some shit, and she's twerking like it was great. Yes, add you can DM me. I still have the same account, so you should be able to find me. Anyways, have a good night. Okay, where was I? So, social window improvements. Increase visibility and hopefully the usage of the LFG tool. We have split the social UI into two separate panes. On the left pane you have LFG, and on the right you will find the Friends, Guilds, and Blocked Management section. The window can now also be resized vertically. A number of new features have also been added. Online only toggle for friends and guild lists. Friend request option for guild member context menus. Invite to group box. Actually, I don't know if this friend request thing is working. I feel like it's not working. Invite to group box added to the bottom of the LFG panel. Yes, okay. Added level, zone, role, and friends list to friends list entries. Added last online to guild member tooltips. You can now sort your friends list by name, role, level, zone, and last online status in either ascending or descending order. You can also sort your guild this way. And join date, the added join date to the guild list. So this is what the LFG tool does look like today. It still looks like this, has not changed since then. You have your looking for group section, little invite button, the player name, their role, their level. On your friends and guilds list, got class, level, name, online or offline, and zone. Got your sort options here, online, offline option here. Merchant buyback. Merchants of Embers Adrift have finally come to their senses and will allow you to buy back items that you had recently sold to them. When selling items to merchants, they will appear in the buyback tab of the merchant UI for the next 30 minutes, allowing you to buy it back for the same price of gold that you sold it for. Each item will show the time remaining before the expiration on the tooltip. Brimstone Canyon, the level 30 plus zone located northeast of Dryfoot. The zone is currently segmented into 3 phases. The first being the release of Phase 1 only. The second phase will be the higher altitude portion of the canyon, while the third phase will likely be a new zone released further down the line. The beautiful red-walled canyons north of Dryfoot are marred only by the Grimstone Marauders dwelling within, earning them the name Grimstone Canyon. These marauders are even worse than their dry-bone counterparts, if that was possible. They're ruthless beyond all measure, and will do anything to get more slag rock for them and their ember... What? Oh, their term for ember ore. Can't read apparently either. The views you'll find in Grimstone Canyon are quite stunning, but don't let them distract you from your surroundings. If you don't pay attention, you're prone to get ambushed by any manner of vicious creatures, from the fearsome redmanes to the deadly scorpions that call these canyons home. And there's Grimstone Canyon. You know, for a zone that came out way back in February, I still have not spent a whole lot of time there. It is really pretty though. It is. Yep, so we did that one. That was the end of February. So let's see what happened in March. Yes, you're right. Well, in most MMOs, you click a button and it automatically puts you in a group, and you don't ever have to interact with those people. You just all click a button, get put in a group, run around, do your thing, and leave. And you never ever have to speak to anyone. They wanted to give us a way to help facilitate finding a group without taking away from the social aspect and still having us encouraging us to interact with our fellow players. So we have the LFG tool, but you still have to put yourself in there, remove yourself out. You still have to, check it and say, oh, well, this person is in my level range, or this person's doing something I need to do, or, maybe you're just bored and you just feel like helping somebody out. You still have to go on there, click on that person's name, send them a whisper, say, hey, you want to join my group, or can I join your group, or whatever, so you still have to interact with people to get that group going, but the LFG tool just helps facilitate that. So I will say it could use more people using it. I still think that it needs to have some kind of notification system where you can ask, you can say, yes, notify me when somebody joins the LFG. It'll pop up in your chat or something and say, oh, a new person's in the LFG, and so you open it and you actually look at it, or maybe it's like a reminder, like, you've been listed in the LFG tool for 45 minutes, maybe you should go check on that. Whatever, something like that. But that's a problem for another day that I'll bug devs about some other time. They may or may not add it, but one of those things that, like, we've players and stuff have kind of brought it up, but, like, no one's really been super pushy about it. The devs have better things to worry about, and silly things like notifications. So anyways, this is the patch from March 28th. let's see. So, end of March. This month's patch brings a slew of new content and features for you to explore. You're getting a handful of new quests, a dungeon, a number of bug fixes, quality of life updates, and an improved grouping experience. And your bags got a little extra space as well. So bug fixes and improvements. Tech fixed an issue with causing an NPCs to moonwalk into the player when feared in enclosed areas. We will never be free of the issues of NPCs doing weird shit. Fixed a rare case where spawn controllers could get stuck in a loop, causing all spawns to stop. The entire game has had undergone a spawn point audit to remove invalid spawn points, and code has been added to prevent the controllers from getting stuck. This bug impacted NPCs, resource nodes, and chests, but was not widespread. The issue was most prevalent in dungeons and Redshore Ridge. Fixed an issue preventing those who are missing their bags from rolling on compatible reagents. Fixed dot ticks will no longer forcibly select an offensive target. Okay. That's weird. I don't understand that, but whatever. You have to put the dot on target, right? Ah, whatever. When executing an ability that requires a defensive target and you have none, you should now auto-target yourself. Auto run is now disabled on a successful interaction with merchants, monoliths, and harvesting nodes. Combat aura no longer needs to be reapplied every time you re-enter combat stance. Once activated, it will reactivate every time you re-enter combat stance. However, after being knocked unconscious, giving up, or zoning, these auras will need to be reactivated. I would love to have that for Lay of the Land. That'd be great. Frogs, quillbacks, and emberflies can now properly navigate over water. Added protections to some inventory logic to prevent rare cases of partially failed trade causing inventories to air out. Improved right-click to equip logic. Thanks, Pelero. Holding shift when equipping a piece of equipment that has both left and right variants while both slots are full, will swap the right slot rather than the left. So like if you have two rings that you want to equip, you can equip one and shift click and equip the other without having to drag stuff around. I said she was in timeout. And anyways, when I need to go farming, I still have to use her because she's the farmer. What to do? And also for right-clicking a one-handed weapon in your inventory while your main hand is full and your offhand is empty, will equip the weapon into your offhand. Also for strikers only, holding shift while right-clicking a one-handed weapon in your inventory while both your main hand and offhands have one-handed weapons will swap the offhanded weapon slot rather than the main hand. Experience fixes and adjustments. Fixed a bug where chevron and group multipliers were being stripped when awarding experience for redcon mobs. Increased experience gain from light blue mobs. Slightly increased experience gain from green mobs. Environment and art. Mix environmental fixes to dungeons. Added an additional small set of ruins to the Northreach. Added swim animations to frogs, toads, ridgebacks, and quillbacks. Canceling transition from sit to stand if a player starts moving. This should reduce the occurrences of butt sliding. Yeah, I don't think I've seen that happen for a while. Though the loot one does still happen. Reduced the emission intensity of targeting reticles. And fixed issues with Meadowlands waterfall rendering at night. Increased backpack indicator brightness during the daytime. Adjusted gated area in Raven Rock near the bank so you can escape. Thank you. Moved the bank in Redshore near Dryfoot exit away from the hollow. Brimstone Canyon. New props added along some of the canyon walls, fixed issues with water preventing NPCs from swimming. Audio, adjusted Mandrake footstep audio. Added trickling water audio to New Haven City's stream. Added stream and waterfall audio to Meadowlands. Added audio listener at player checks box to the audio options. I believe he actually disabled that, so that's irrelevant. When's that taking place? When's what taking place? Sorry. UI. Fixed a typo in Scavenger Hatchet. Fixed heals not showing heavy and critical in the combat log. Fixed issues with the combat text when something is fully resisted. Fixed some triggered effects not properly reflecting the player as the source. The damage from these effects will now show in the combat log as coming from the player and will go through the appropriate filter. Fixed LFG LFM text wrapping. Improved overhead nameplate height consistency. Added more loading tips. Corrected grammar and spelling on others. Added a field of view slider to the gameplay options. This defaults to 50 degrees and has a range of 40 to 80 degrees. Expanded both the bag and gathering bag by 1 row. 5 additional slots. Added, orange cons have made a return. Mobs that were previously red, but you could still hit them, are now orange. Red is now full resist, 5 levels and above. Only. Guild masters can now modify members with invalid ranks. Questlog expanded states are now saved between sessions. Red Shore map fixed monolith positioning. Added northeastern path to Red Shore Ridge entrance for clarity. Was that long ago that they fixed the monolith? Jeez. Oh, the warden for farming. Yeah, well, apparently we're going camping this weekend, so I'll have to cancel our Saturday date, unfortunately. That's what I had to spend a lot of time doing today, was getting out all the camping stuff. But yeah, anyways. Let's see, design, normalize rare spawn rates and drops for more consistency. This resulted in an increased spawn rate for most named NPCs. Weapon damage increased on level 33 plus weapons. Reworked tool progression to be more consistent from tier to tier. Pushed back hostile spawns from Brimstone Canyon entrance and Dryfoot. Basilisks now drop reagents. Enabled line of sight checks for additional camps in Red Shore Ridge. Execution time for Smoldering Ash reduced. Feared mobs can now cause social aggro. Fixed multiple NPCs ability using incorrect animations. Work in progress. New skinning nodes have been added to outdoor zones. These function in much the same way as forestry or prospecting nodes, but are less common in areas populated by skinnable animals. Increase the spawn rate at a number of camps. Myers now include their type in the main name instead of as a title. New characters start with 5 more armor weight. Armor weight progression remains the same after level 6. Overtime fixes for off-duration tick counts of crafted regen potions in Sentinels replenish. Yes, the universe does say more suffering is required. This is not going to make any sense to YouTube when I put this video on YouTube because they can't see the chat. Okay, abilities. Reduced the initial cooldown on salvo. Open wound proc damage increased. Reduced the range on despair from 8 to 6 meters. The following abilities now reduce cooldowns as part of their progression. Collateral damage, breach, bash, crushing bow, sweep, quick strike, pressure, pummel, acid strike, assist, and salvo. The following abilities have had their static damage values increased at level 33 and above. Rip, Perforate, Bleeding Strike, Venom Strike, Quillback Spines, Lingering Strikes, Viperid Toxins, Combined Strike, and Serration. Let me tell you. Oh wait, I'm not level 33. I was gonna say, Serration still sucks, but I'm not level 33, so, you know. Quests. Our quest reward system and UI have been updated to allow more flexibility in what combinations of rewards we can provide. New quests: Veteran's Guidance, The Pirate, Meadowlands Antiquities, Lost to the Sands of Time, Under the Branches of History. I still have not seen anybody, except for one person, get that Meadowlands quest. You can add text lines. No, I'm just gonna upload this straight from Twitch onto YouTube because I cannot, my laptop and my desktop both, they cannot handle the level of editing and rendering on videos longer than like 15-20 minutes, which is why I decided to do it this way instead of trying to make a shit ton of separate videos. Like, just get them all done in one. And yeah, so unless I can figure out how to edit stuff directly in YouTube without having to do rendering shit, this is what we got. Yes, okay, I'm reading. Yes. Let's see. Jeez, how long is this one? This is big patch notes. Okay. Audio, UI, design, quests. Okay, here we go. New stuff. Oh, right, because this was when we got Gel. Group Elevated Level. Today, we introduce a new feature that should make it a bit easier to form groups with a larger range of player levels called Gel. Gel automatically raises a player's effective level to the highest group member's level, with a few limitations. What we mean here by effective level is the value put through the combat calculations. When the player hits an NPC, or an NPC hits the player, we look at the level difference to determine a few things, such as higher level resist, advantage and disadvantage, and level adjusted armor class. Gel allows lower level players to group with high level players and bypass any disadvantages that may have previously had going up against a higher level NPC. The limitations of this system are as follows. Only accounts for group members within range of one another, which is indicated by the plus number value on the group window. This means that your elevated level may change depending on which group members you are within range of. The maximum elevated level of a player is their current adventuring level plus 5. So you can only go up 5 levels with Gel. The elevated level does not rank up abilities, stats, or health. NPC chevron colors are still in comparison to your actual adventuring level. Adventuring experience rewarded for kills continues to use your real adventuring level, not the elevated level. Why this approach? The challenge here was finding a way for groups to be more inclusive while not pushing them towards higher level content. We feel that expanding the con system to upper levels, expanding yellows, etc., would drive players towards higher level content, leaving lower level players in roughly the same position they are now. Gel allows for the expansion of the upper range for some, with the limiting factor being the highest level member of the group. A new icon has been added to the party window, which indicates your current Gel status. In the following screenshot, you can see what it looks like when Gel is inactive. You are the highest level player nearby, and when it is active, you are not the highest level player nearby, along with the corresponding tooltips for each case. So you have the +1, you have the little arrow here for Gel. This is the Gel arrow. It's inactive, it's grayed out, inactive. It's active, it's not grayed out. and then you hover over it and it tells you what you are gelled up to. You are increased to level 22 thanks to a nearby group member. Oh, I see. He just was doing it on himself. He wasn't actually in a group. Finally, a new toggle has been added to gameplay options called Show Gel Indicators, which will add the gel icon to overhead nameplates and UI nameplates. The gel icon will be colored in accordance to how your gel level compares with the mob's level, while the chevron indicators will remain colored based on how they compare to your true adventuring level. We have found that this additional icon can cause some confusion, so we have disabled this option by default. Yeah, I hate that stupid little arrow. I hate it. It's just not good for my eyes. I don't need it. I don't care. You know, like I just don't care. Some people like to use it though, so they have that option. We hope this new feature will open up a wider range of possible group mates. Come gel with your friends. And honestly, gel has been a game changer. No, I will say, and I get a lot of shit for saying this every time I say it, but gel, while I absolutely love it and I take full advantage of it, is sometimes a little bit OP. Allowing people to do things that they have no business doing. However, with this recent patch as of today, I think that sort of fixed that problem for me personally. Like I said, most people are like, how dare you, shut the fuck up. Don't you ever say that about gel. Body is not rendered, but your weapons are. So you have little floating weapons. I don't like it. The only game I play in first person mode is Skyrim. Dynamic cloud coverage. The first step in implementing any sort of weather system is adding dynamic cloud coverage. Up until this point, the amount of clouds present in Embers Adrift has been static. Clouds will now dynamically adjust their coverage. Lots of clouds or not very many clouds, based on the date, time, and location. Right now it is mostly randomized, but in the future we plan to involve a much more complex relationship with different weather patterns. Someday we'll get weather. Forgotten Depths. Deep within the halls of Forgotten Depths, Ember is bent toward a dark purpose. A long-forgotten sect of disgraced philosophers from the earliest days of the Academy in New Haven have found sanctuary in these ancient caves. Banished from New Haven for horrific experimentation upon their fellow citizens, this cabal of alchemists sought a new home to push the boundaries of what Ember can do. They found a secluded home in the Forgotten Depths where they can experiment without restraint, no matter the cost to human life or their own sanity. Rumors have begun to spread amongst the Red Shore inhabitants of a threat emerging from underground. Nocturnes stalk the night, stealing captives away for their dark masters. Those who wander too near the cave disappear, never to be seen again. Shrieks of torment can be heard echoing from the foreboding caves. Brave drifters are needed to put an end to this evil. Gather your courage and companions and delve into Forgotten Depths, if you dare. Forgotten Depths is a new dungeon accessible via Redshore for levels 28 to 32. This is the first phase of this dungeon, with 2 or more phases in development. So yeah, this was when we got Forgotten Depths. It's pretty great. Not gonna lie, I love it. I love that place. New creatures. Forgotten Depths also introduces 2 new creatures, the Muck Ripper and the Pterodile. They look like some crazy dinosaur shit out of Ark. Ta-da! Cool. So that was March 28th. That was the end of March. Yeah, we got that one. February, March, April 4th was just a hot fix. For renaming some wood products. They're Outlands instead of Frontier. Fix some spelling errors, typos. Fixed torches not turning off during the day. Fixed the dice for Chaos Hatchet. Interacting with UI elements will no longer cancel auto run. Fixed some environmental prop and nav issues. Fixed some spawn problems. Environmental seam. Name on relic. Fixed the name on the relic hunter's leggings. Fixed issues with skylight colors not changing in dungeons. Fixed some stuck spots. Fixed a quest log exception. Fixed a number of prop LODs and weapon and shield LODs. Fixed ashen visual effects. Pushed back mob spawns near the Forgotten Depths egress point. Blocking now adds additional threat equal to the player's adventuring level. That was like a little thing added in there, just all sneakily. Blocking now adds additional threat equal to the player's adventuring level. So when you're on a tank and you get a block roll, it also generates threat, which was very helpful for tanks, not gonna lie. Let's see, disabled some shadows on parts of ashen creatures. Maces of the Unseen Hand now have frontal bonus. Randomized visuals for rotting carcasses between deers, bears, boars, etc. Added level 38 and 42 Forsaken mobs in the appropriate locations. The initial feedback on Forsaken mobs was that they were too easy. So we had held these back until we could implement more interesting ideas. But feedback also told us that having level 38 and 42 abilities available as a rare lotto style drop was not a pleasant experience. Since we did not want to take away any previously acquired abilities, we are instead adding the Forsaken mobs back as a temporary stopgap solution. At some point, these will likely be replaced with a more interesting acquisition mechanic. We're still waiting on that change. As it is right now, you still have to go kill mobs until you get your skill book. Well, got your book from the first one you killed, all the same. Well, that's good. I'm glad. I'm glad you got it on the first try. I still have not reached a level high enough on any of my characters to get there. Anyways, back to the patch notes. Removed fear calls for help. This change set slipped through the cracks and was not introduced in QA notes through March. I take full responsibility for not being vigilant enough in obtaining design updates from Aegir class month. Fear was always intended to be a bit more chaotic and unpredictable in nature, so you should expect some form of calls for help to be added back in the future. Which they did. They worked that whole thing out. And warlords who use fear. I love you. I love warlords who use fear. My best friends, especially if there's not a brigand in the group. If there's not a brigand in the group, I'm like, hey, Warlord, can you fear this, please? I don't want to have to ask, but yeah, I'm glad you did too. Okay. So that was bug fixes, in April. Oops. So what happened at the end of April? Oh man, that's a long one too. Okay. Of course, I'm getting hungry now. Because I did not eat dinner. I kind of figured this was going to take a while to get through all of these though, but we're already up to April. We got April, May, June, July, August. We have 5 left. We'll go quick. I'll stop rambling bullshit and just read. I say that like I can keep that promise. So anyways, this was the patch notes for the end of April, April 25th. Oh no, okay, we're getting an ad break. No, let me snooze it. Yep, let me snooze that ad break. For 5 minutes, really, that's it? Okay. Okay, here's the deal. I'm gonna run a 3-minute ad break, take a bathroom break, and probably get another drink, and yeah, we will resume in 3 minutes. I should see if I can find something to eat, or at least that I can bring back into my room. I don't know. Anyways, be right back. Are the ads done yet? I didn't get anything to eat, I just got a piece of chocolate. I don't know either, I can't trust the damn timer. Apparently. We're back? Okay, cool. Cool. Okay. Substitute sex in a wrapper, that's chocolate, and you're not wrong. Okay, sorry, kind of zoned out for a second there. No, we're not gonna think about that. Okay. April 25th was this patch here. Let's see. This week brings a slew of new content, including 2 new higher tier level regions, faction banners, bag dragging, and support for NVIDIA's Deep Learning Super Sampling DLSS. In addition, there are a number of bug fixes and minor quality of life improvements found below. Bug fixes and improvements. Tech. Updated game engine to the latest minor revision. This should bring some minor improvements and bug fixes to rendering, performance, and stability. Added tech to allow for NPC AoE conal abilities to target front, side, rear, or any combination. NPCs may start to utilize this tech, whatever, in the near future. Reduced camera shake for large bears. Rooted and halted mobs will now more intelligently select their targets based on who they can attack nearby. Fixed NPCs will now maintain their targets while feared, stunned, or rooted. Fixed an issue where NPCs may not select the closest target if more than one player has enraged them. Fixed an issue with cold lights not properly disabling themselves. The fixed deconstruct results should now stack. That was a great change. Stacking the deconstruct results. Yes, of course I will be. It's a silly question. Of course. What would I do? I'm gonna read. Ah, shouldn't have ate that chocolate. Now my throat's all... I know better. Never eat anything when you're reading out loud. Terrible idea. Okay. Anyways. Deconstruct results should now stack. Fix the number of social UI bugs. Fix non-armored target dummy at Raven Rock no longer has armor. Fixed a bug that allows mobs to apply hamstring to the player multiple times. Fixed a bug that could potentially cause issues with some abilities not properly overriding others. Fixed an issue with AoE CCs not applying the correct amount of additional threat on application, environment, and art. Improve the reliability and consistency of anything that relies on the altitude of the sun to make adjustments. This includes adjusting the fog throughout the day, your backpack visual effects, and embering visuals, and dungeon skylights. This fixes an issue with the fog density changing dramatically when moving from 11:59 p.m. to 12 a.m. Move the third Ember Ring and Hallow and Grimstone Canyon to a safer spot. Added an anvil and a merchant at this location. Grimstone Marauders now wear a unique mask. Fixed ember biomes in a number of scenes to properly populate around ember drifts, ruptures, and rings. Blue flowers, mushrooms, odd trees. Fixed visuals for Manslayer Sword and Shadow Bows. Fixed missing colliders in the Undercroft. Fixed missing stair in the Undercroft. Fixed IK issues for Stonecoats, Nocturnes, and player abilities. IK stands for Inverse Kinematics and relates to how their feet and hands are positioned. Fixed some environmental rock issues at New Haven City entrance in Northreach. Fixed some environmental prop issues in Dryfoot. Fixed some navigation issues in Grimstone Canyon, Red Shore Ridge, and Dryfoot. Audio. Audio listener is now always at the player location. This toggle has been removed from the options menu. UI. Moved the stats, combats, and resist tabs inside the equipment window. Added an enable camera shake toggle to the gameplay options menu. New Haven Council has approved the usage of time zones throughout the land. From this point henceforth, all time will be expressed in references to New Haven Standard Time. All time in the tooltips will now have NST along with a plus or minus value if applicable. Zones to the east or west of New Haven will include these modifiers. Meadowlands NST -1, Dryfoot NST +1, Grimstone Canyon NST +2. Adjusted hail. The default bind key is H. Priority. So they adjusted the hail priority. The hail command will now hail your offensive target, followed by your defensive target. If neither of those exist, it will find the closest player within 20 meters in front of your avatar. If none exist, then it will consider the closest player behind your avatar. If none of these exist, it will default back to hail. Cleaned up the globe tooltip on your chat windows. Many items have been moved to their own line for clarity. Instance, time, date, and season. Fixed self-overhead nameplate no longer shows while in first-person mode. Fixed gel indicators no longer show on defensive targets. NPCs. Fixed combat text can now handle multiple visual types. Design. Striker abilities, while dual-wielding weapons now perform an additional offhand weapon attack, which contributes 10% of its damage to the end result. The offhand roll is completely independent and will take advantage of any flanking bonuses, which is now positional bonuses, of the offhand. The end result is ability is ability damage plus main hand damage plus offhand damage times 10%. Divided by 10%. Whatever. Fucking ability damage, main hand damage, offhand damage, 10%. This should make the dual wielding weapons a bit more viable for strikers. There is more work to be done here, but this should be a good first step. Spiderwebs in dungeons and Meadowlands have become a bit stickier. Those damn webs. Tell you what. The Warlord's presence is now Renewing Resonance, which regens both health and stamina. All 1 chevron ranged mob weapons should no longer have a dead zone, longbow and heavy crossbow. Motivator Sword has a custom flanking bonus. Renamed Redmane's hamstring ability to Tendon Slice. Added target dummies to Red Shore Outpost. Adjusted chest spawn rates in all zones. Adjusted spawns around Ember Rings and Red Shore Ridge. Fixed an issue with NPC Revenge ability being too powerful. Fixed some spawn configurations to reduce the likelihood of multiple of the same rare being up at the same time. Fixed mining loot table for Stonecoat Emissary. Fixed Ashen large spider range on spit attack can now spawn as ranged. Oh, okay. fixed naming of noble refined goods. Brigand abilities, Overpower and Hidden Strike, have had some adjustments to make them more distinct from one another. The goal is to keep Hidden Strike's utility of a quicker threat reduced. The goal is to keep Hidden Strike's utility of a quicker threat reduced attack while keeping Overpower as the longer cooldown heavy hit. Overpower has had its damage multiplier increased. Hidden Strike has had its innate penetration removed and damage multiplier slightly increased. Sentinel's ability Salvo reduced initial cooldown and stamina cost. Higher level values remain the same. Warlord ability Flinching Strike fixed stamina reduction and progression to be consistent. Martial ability Pressure fixed stamina reduction and progression to be consistent. Warden ability Aid fixed duration to line up tick rate. Amount healed per tick slightly reduced and overall amount healed increased. Sample 2 ticks for 18 are now 3 ticks of 15. Warden ability Vibrid Toxins removed trigger count. Quests. Find a case where fixed a case where missing weapons quest was not starting. Adjusted the description on a number of quest objectives to make them a bit more clear. New quests added: Renegade's Retribution, Threat of Grimstone, and Caught with Their Pants Down. New stuff. Faction banners. New banners have been sighted throughout the land. These represent the different factions in the game and can be seen in various places in the different zones. Each one also comes with an accompanying tooltip so you can more easily familiarize yourself with who they represent. In the gameplay options, a new toggle has been added labeled Enable Cloth Sim, where when checked, these new banners will enable their cloth sim for a little extra visual detail. The option is disabled by default to avoid any potential performance or crashing issues that cloth can notoriously cause. Bag dragging. This month we have added chat commands that will allow you and your groupmates to drag your bag. Bags can be dragged if the owner is online in the same zone as the bag. The dragger is within 5 meters of the bag. And if the bag is not your own, you must be grouped with the owner. The commands are as follows. /bag will attempt to drag your bag. Keep an eye on the chat box for feedback. /group consent will toggle consent on and off to your group. The consent will allow anyone grouped with you to drag your bag. When executing this command, you will be notified in chat if consent is enabled or disabled. This remains enabled until you zone, log off, or toggle off consent. Consent is toggled off by default. Bag and target's name will attempt to drag a nearby bag belonging to the target name if present. If the drag was successful, the owner will be notified who dragged their bag. The distance is currently quite small but may be extended in the future based on feedback, and yes, we know that a macro system would be quite helpful here, but one step at a time. Don't forget that when chat is active, pressing the up and down arrows will cycle through your previous commands. Regions. 2 new regions have been added and are now open for adventuring. Both regions roughly span the levels 35 to 39. Grimstone Canyon Phase 2, with hordes of new creatures spilling out from the Forgotten Depths and the Stonecoats dominating this part of the canyons, it's no wonder Grimstone Marauders have only a tentative grasp on this territory. Come explore the higher ground of these canyons to see what challenges await. Grimstone Phase 2 and Forgotten Depths Phase 2. After exploring the upper corridors of the Forgotten Depths, passages that lead even deeper have now been discovered. Drifters are greeted with the tormented shrieks of a never-before-seen creature. The darkness grows deeper in this new set of ancient halls as the Cabal and their cultists hungrily seek more ways to seize the power of Ember at the expense of their victims. Delve into this new section of Forgotten Depths and see what horrors lay waiting. Shrieks. A new creature has been found lurking in the Forgotten Depths. A shriek. Why are they called shrieks? Well, you'll have to pay them a visit to find out. DLSS. Support NVIDIA's DLSS has been added in this patch. For those of you with an NVIDIA graphics card, a new option will be found in your video options, allowing you to enable it and adjust the quality parameter. If you run the client greater than 1080p resolution with the NVIDIA graphics card, it is recommended that you enable this option for increased performance. Note, in low light situations, you may notice that some motion blur from certain objects and or artifacts in the world space UI, like overhead nameplates, acting weird. We're working to resolve this issue, but hope that performance boost DLSS offers will offset the minor visual issues that you may encounter. Hat visuals. 3 new hat and helm visuals have been added to the game. Mask of the Renegade. Pretty cool mask. Woven Grass Crown. I love that crown. Can't wait to get one. Rock Skull Cap. That one's also pretty fucking cool. Not gonna lie. Alright, so that was April. Let's do May. So we had a hot fix in May. Prop issues in dungeons. Fix some stuff with DLSS. Fix some visual stuff. Focusing battle chant is now considered a song in the chat filters. Let's see, fixed usage of links and messages where the channel was specified after the message was typed. Let's see, fixed callback spines not having a trigger count. Fixed the tooltip on the freehold door. Fixed some minor dialogue issues. Fixed LODs. Some incorrect material settings. Fixed a bug with title selection and added the title High Specialization will now be automatically awarded to players who reach level 50. There was another hotfix in May. Oops. Go back. Fix EVs should respawn you at the correct spot. Fix execution on Fury. Fix last online issue with social list. Added a range and angle to weaponry and tooltips. Removed red shore EV entrance spots in the middle of the beach ruins. Fixed a bug that was causing the client to crash immediately upon opening for some processors. More data is now shown on the applied effect tooltips. Some of the data may be extraneous, whatever. So please let me know if I can further refine them in the future. Enabling lids on all square wells to prevent folk from getting stuck inside them. Rude. That's when you put the lid over my bucket. I was wondering why there was a lid on my bucket a couple weeks ago. Okay, so May 30th. We're on to May 30th. Number of quality of life updates, performance improvements, new quests, and Ember Veins. And don't forget to pop in through the free weekend of June. Obviously, that is in the past. So, bug fixes, improvements. Tech fixed a bug where NPC dots from the same NPC type could not stack. This could make spiders a bit tiny bit more dangerous. Fixed issues with AoE line of sight checks impacting which targets were selected during an AoE. This should make abilities like Intimidate easier to use. fixed interaction issues with ember veins. Fixed an issue where weapon augments were only being consumed by the offhand weapon while dual wielding. Fixed some minor rendering issues with targeting reticles. Fixed a per frame allocation in the skybox rendering. Augments can now be stacked up to a maximum of 5 on a single item. Stacking only extends the life of the augment. Additional hit counts for weapons, additional duration for armor. The stat generated by the augment remains the same. Shadow performance improvements. Environment and art. Fix stuck spots in Forgotten Depths and Redshore. Fix some environmental bugs. Fix some lighting issues. Added some props. Adjusted LODs. Replaced water planes in Central Veins, Aquifer, Ember Veins, and other dungeon rooms. It should look more like water now. Characters on the login screen will now show with the weapons and ember stones. Disabled lighting in Dryfoot Castle until it is populated. Added some lighting to Dryfoot's stronghold. Audio. Eagle Eye now has an associated audio. UI. Fixed a bug on the social server that was causing intermittent issues with player status updates. Could result in incorrect info being shown on the guild, friends, or group windows. Fixed typos in NPCs' calls for helps and emotes. Fixed crafting UI not remembering position between sessions. Added a tooltip to damage types in the combat log. Hovering over damage values will now show the specific damage type in most cases. Added a tooltip to armor class in the equipment UI. Added an icon tinting for refined logs. Added a different icon for higher level dopants. Added a chat notification when a group member falls unconscious. Added tutorial log tab in the old quest window. Stats enhanced by inner and outer armor augments are now colored in green in the stat window. Selected stat tabs will now remember your selection between sessions. When using a repair kit, with a stack count greater than 1, your mouse will remain in repair mode until the stack is depleted or you cancel repair mode. Or a volume slider removed from the audio options as it currently serves no purpose. Traditional tutorial text should now show dynamic keylines. Confirmation dialogues for monoliths and egress points will auto-cancel if you move too far away. Flanking stat renamed to positional. Tooltips for weapons, items, consumables, and abilities have been revamped. Group window updates. When a group member is in a different zone or out of range, their level and role will still be shown. Simplified the method in which we update the group window when members leave and join. This should fix the issue of keyboard shortcut labels being incorrect. Nameput outline color will now change depending on the health state of the group member. Cyan, unselected. Blue, selected as your defensive target. Red, unconscious, can be brought back via healing and smelling salts. Purple, selected and unconscious. Black, given up, can no longer be brought back with healing or salts. Design, fixed skinning and resource stack. Fixed skinning and resource level on Stark the Bear. Fixed armor weight on Scale Mesh Mask. Fixed ash consumable. Fixed missing icon on One Chevron Spider. Fixed incorrect XP modifier on Great Axe recipes. It should now grant full experience. Fixed renewing resonance to be group only. Fixed bat screech should no longer stack. Fixed level on Dryfoot Jack trousers. Fixed insulated trousers to provide chemical damage resist instead of chemical damage. Fixed scurry boots to provide ember damage resist instead of ember damage. Fixed anthills and rat nests not properly calling for help when attacked at max range. Fixed level requirements from harvesting named stonecoats. Environmental spider webs are now quite a bit stickier, even more stickier than last time. Movement reduction is now 50% along with a 35% haste reduction when you run into fucking spider webs. Evil. Damage from the Ember Ring's burn now does a fixed fraction of your health, so that is equally dangerous at all levels. Don't stand in the fucking fire. Reduced memorization time for Lay of the Land and Resuscitate to 1 second. Reduce durability lost from the incoming hits by 10%. Repair kits are now advanced repair kits. Added basic repair kit recipe can be purchased in New Haven City. These repair kits can be made using ingredients from a single gathering profession, but are less efficient. Reduced aggro radius of Redmane. Reduce the spawn rate of freaks in Grimstone Canyon. Adjusted NPC patrols in Forgotten Depths and Grimstone Canyon to be less frequent. Added an egress point to the Meadowlands Ember Oasis. Whisker Tooth Dagger now has a dagger visual. Increased damage output by 5 to 10% for mob levels 25 plus. Woo! We're almost there. Well, we're like halfway there. I don't know. Increased damage output. Feared mobs now have a chance to call for help when the fear wears off. Carrion Ravens, Redmane Prowlers, Redmane Lurkers can no longer turn ashen. Basilisk Tail Whip now has a conal attack. Knuckles and Claws are now referred to as one-handed fist types. Resilience stat improvements see below. Monolith changes and updates Monoliths can now only be used out of combat. Now have a confirmation dialogue on usage, and the Redshore monolith has been moved to the west side of the zone to better accommodate lower level players and higher level players to get to the beach and freehold. Weapon Offhand Ability Contribution, OHAC, updated for the various weapon types. Hatchet 20%, sword 30%, dagger and fist 35%. Berserker. Fury execution time reduced to 1 second. Assault stamina cost progression reduced. Brigand. Mark execution time reduced to 1 second. Increased damage of overpower, hidden strike, and mark. Reduced stamina cost of overpower, execute, stun, and hidden strike. Warden. Increased damage of venom strike and acid strike. Increase the amount of a hit from Eagle Eye. Reduce the stamina cost of acid strike, viper toxins, and assist. Juggernaut. Reduce the cooldown on No Time to Die by 1 minute. Added info to the tooltip, reminding players that it is only effective when the weapons are drawn. Collateral damage is now a proper AoE and has increased threat. Unstoppable now also prevents daze. Perforate deals more initial damage while the dot duration is reduced. Total damage is still the same. Increased multipliers on breach. Increased roar's damage bonus and duration. Increased damage on revenge. Quests. New quests added. Restoring a legacy fit for an outfitter, brewing up history, Tinker's tailor-made supplies, the blade remade, and the Woodshaper's request. These are all of the crafting quests, which I have been working very hard to complete these last couple of weeks. I only have one left, and that's the woodworker one. New stuff. Shadow performance updates. This month's patch brings a few critical performance improvements to Shadows. Embers Adrift day-night cycle requires that our directional light cast real-time shadows, which are very expensive to render. When night falls, many point lights turn on, torches, lanterns, candles, etc., which impose even more of a performance cost for some graphics cards. I spent some time last weekend investigating our lighting culling code and found a few bugs that need smashing. In addition, I found some code that I wrote about 3 years ago, but for some reason never used. Needless to say, I integrated this code into the game, fixed some bugs, and adjusted some settings, which I really hope will drastically reduce the rendering cost of shadows for certain systems. The changes are as follows. Code that he wrote 3 years ago and never used. Funny. Fixed a light bug in the light culling code that was preventing far-off light shadows from being disabled. integrated old tech from non-humanoid NPCs, which disables their shadows at a distance. This can significantly reduce the number of shadowcasters currently active, which in turn should reduce the load on your graphics card. Added a new slider to the video option called shadow casting lights. The range of values available is 1 to 10 with 3 as a default. Changing this value allows you to set the maximum number of point lights allowed to cast shadows. The directional sun moonlights are excluded from this count. By setting this value point to 0, you are effectively disabling the shadows from all lights except for the sun and moon, which could help you squeeze a little extra performance out of the game while maintaining shadows from a directional light. Note that at low counts, you may notice shadows toggling on and off more frequently as the camera location changes. Disabled Bloopers light from updating the shadow map every frame during the evening. Given that this body is stationary in the sky, we do not need to constantly update the shadow map. This yields a significant performance boost, which should even out the performance cost of additional point lights that turn on during the night. Tutorial log. The quest log has been extended to include tutorial information. Tabs have been added to the top of the window to allow you to switch between quests and tutorial. And the window has been renamed Log. The new tutorial section serves as a place to revisit previously viewed tutorial tooltips. We hope this new resource will help new players more easily navigate the early game. Weapon positional changes. Note that flanking has been renamed to positional. Most weapons have a primary and secondary positional, typically denoted by a reduced base positional value. For example, Mauls have 5 damage from the rear primary and 3 damage from the front secondary. This was meant to offer a less optimal but still useful way of using weapons with positional bonuses. We have changed this system so that the primary direction will now grant a bonus to the positional stat, but the secondary will only receive the base value of the positional bonus. For example, crossbow has 5 damage from the side primary and 15 hit from the rear secondary. An example of how the math plays out for a player with 25 positional is as follows. The primary position from the side will have a base of 125% positional to damage, or 5 plus 25 times 1.25 equals plus 36.25 damage. Whereas the secondary position from the rear will have a base plus 100% positional to hit, or 15 plus 25 times 1 equals 40 to hit. Please note that some weapons do not follow traditional conventions and have higher base values. These weapons have kept their higher base bonuses, but have reduced contributions from the positional stat that go below 100%. Hoplite Great Axe, Galik's Fang, Dreadmaul, Prospector's Pick, Fishing Pole, Encased Tendril. Other weapons such as swords are unique in that they offer 100% positional bonuses from all sides with no primary. Resilience update. Resilience currently serves as a saving throw when your health drops to 0. We have expanded the functionality of resilience to now also reduce the damage bonus of incoming heavy and critical hits. Reminder that resilience only works in combat stance. Tooltip renovations. Tooltips play an important part in Embers Adrift by providing you with all the juicy details about abilities, equipment, weapons, and consumables. For the longest time, our tooltips have been a bit lacking in the clarity department, as they are procedurally generated based on the data. In other words, they were hastily put together by programmers who just wanted to verify what data was present and ignored the need for readability. This month, we have revamped tooltips for weapons, equipment, consumables, and abilities to bring a bit more clarity about. Another goal of this revamp was to trim some of the extra bits to keep things short and to the point, all while providing a way for you to explore that additional data when necessary. To that end, we have made the following changes. Revamp the procedural content of all weapon, equipment, consumable, and ability tooltips to more clearly present the data, the relevant data. Hold Alt to view additional information when a tooltip is active. This includes dice, expanded definitions for acronyms, etc. Hold Shift to view the next tier of an ability, if available, when an ability tooltip is active. Dice values have been replaced with a damage range that includes all self-contained bonuses previously shown as mods, or 1d4 plus 5, etc. No back-end math has changed. Everything is still based on dice rolls, which can still be viewed in the tooltip by holding Alt. More clearly and consistently organize data in all tooltips across different items. Things like stat bonuses are now sorted along with the consistent placement of timings, expirations, triggers, etc. All duplicate data, i.e. augment bonuses, has been removed. Colors of items on tooltips should be a bit more consistent. Blue equal player stats, green augments, light green augments, regular green reagents. When viewing the requirements section, blue is met and red is not met. Given the sheer number of items and ability variation in Embers Adrift, it is inevitable that something is showing funky or was simply left out. If you ever find this to be the case, please /report your findings with the specifics so that we can take a look at it and get it fixed. New hats. 2 new hat variants have been added to the game to match the visuals. Some have been renamed from hood to cap. We're still working on proper hoods, and we hope to have them to you. One day soon. The hats that got these visuals are Silk Cap, Smuggler's Cap, Relic Hunter's Cap, Elder Marauder's Cap, Lunatic's Lid, and Sanity Cap. So these are the new hats. Ember Veins. 2 new Ember Veins have been added with new treasures to be found. The first is located in Red Shore and caters to levels 25 to 26, while the other can be found in Grimstone Part 2 and caters to level 48 to 49. Okay, I think we're gonna stop there for the night. And tomorrow, what is tomorrow? Tomorrow is Embers Adrift Day? Yes. Anyways, whatever. Tomorrow we will read June, July, and August. I am like, my brain is melting and I need to do something else. So yeah. That's what we're gonna do. I need to restart the stream though. Unless anyone has questions or comments on the patch notes from February to May. A lot of I'm telling you, it's a lot. A lot of stuff happens. Like, I don't know. There are some people who think that devs, oddly enough, don't seem to do anything, but they do a lot. They do, and they do listen. It doesn't mean they do what you want, but they do listen. So yeah, and honestly, the best thing you can do, especially if you have concerns about something, is to play on QA. Go spend some significant time on QA. I'm talking, you know, a couple of hours by yourself get a couple of friends, do some group content, play it like you would play live. And then, you know, give your feedback. Because a lot of times, people like freak out about something before it even hits live, or even when it hits live, and they haven't gone on to QA to actually test the thing. They just formulated an opinion based off of some patch notes that they skimmed, or that patch notes that they didn't even skim, but someone else skimmed. And it's like playing a game of telephone, you know? And then everyone has all these opinions, and they're getting upset when they have not read the patch notes, and they have not spent some time on QA, and they have not provided constructive feedback. And they get all emotional, and they start being all pissy, and yeah. Anyways, I get kind of passionate about it, and I know these people are passionate as well, and that's why I would like us to do things in a better way, because just getting angry is not the way, you know? Like, anyways, I'm just, I don't know. I don't know. Let me see. Is anybody even online? Like, anybody in Discord? People chilling? It's already 12:30. I might not even have a group this late. Like, I still want to play Assassin's Creed, and I'm still sad that my internet is fucking stupid. If there's some people in Discord, I might have something to do. I don't know. I'm pretty tired though, so yeah, Sly will be on. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm gonna be able to group with him, because he's like you. He's well out-leveled me. I can't level that fast. I don't have that kind of time. And I certainly don't have that kind of organized group. To grind like that with. So. Oh, well, I mean, that's silly, because neither you nor I can compete with that level of fucking grind when you have a dedicated group to grind fucking 10 hours a day. Like, who can compete with that? Me and you sure as fuck can't. You being a solo player and me being a cat trying to herd squirrels, like. Not to mention, I hop around from character to character because I get fucking bored doing the same shit all the time. So, I have 5 characters at level 20 or above. If I put all of that time and effort into one character, I would probably be level 50, but I just can't play the same character all the time. Like, I need to play other stuff. I need to level all my craftings. I need to Well, yeah, there's that, and there's also you being antisocial half the time. But yeah, well, I mean, you know, there's plenty of people starting to move up into that level bracket. Although you may run into the problem of having other tanks, so you might have to off tank, because most other tanks are knights or marshals. And usually people want DPS anyways, so I mean, you might have to compromise a little bit. But yeah, there is people moving up into the high 30s. Yes. Yeah, Chimera Kid. It can take some time. Sometimes you don't always find the right people right off the bat, but hey, I didn't tell you to be more social. I just said you're antisocial sometimes. I was just stating a fact, not telling you to be more social. Yeah, don't mind him. He's he just does this, he grumps. Yes, yeah. No, I mean absolutely. I was just saying, you know, make some friends. Find some people who play around the same times as you, who kind of have the same sort of play style as you, because that's the thing that a lot of people don't factor in. You gotta factor in the play styles, because like I said, I play a lot of different characters. I don't really just hyper focus on one character, and I don't like doing the same thing over and over and over. Like if we're in like a camp and we're just sitting in the one spot and killing the same mobs in the same spot for hours, like I hate that. I hate doing that. It's fucking boring. It's mind-meltingly boring to me. I don't want to do that. So, like, finding the right friends, it can take time because we're a small community, but with enough patience and determination, you will find them. Especially with the anniversary coming up soon. We've got the anniversary in October coming up, and I'm pretty sure, I don't know this for a fact, I am not a dev, but I am fairly certain that we will have an open weekend in October, which always brings in a nice influx of players. The key there is catching their attention and holding it. And a lot of that, I believe, is on the shoulders of the already existing community to welcome in those new players, especially in events like a free weekend where there's a lot of them. We need to welcome them in, bring them into the fold, and don't ruin the experience, right? Because that does happen too, where people ruin the experience for the new people and they just like power level them through all the things, and they don't get to experience what the game is actually about, and then they're like, okay, well that was it, because they didn't have those experiences, which is the whole point of the game, really. Like, when you get down to it, that is the whole point of the game, is to create those experiences and those memories of exploration and wonder and dying to a fucking level 1 rat and getting lost and like all of that, and experiencing the world unfold before you with the lore and the quests, and talking to NPCs and all that kind of thing. So like, anyways, I'm just kind of rambling now. So yeah, anyways, the point is that you will, if you don't make friends, before then, you'll definitely be able to, probably snag a couple in October. Find, a good group of friends to play with the new crowd coming in, because it is a lot easier, like, to sort of come up with at least one or two other people. You know, a lot of people don't want to go back and do the same shit all over again, but some do. Obviously, I mean, there's plenty of us who have lots of alts, but you know. Anyways, I'm just rambling because I'm tired and blah blah blah. Yes, it would be cool and neat and really fun. Just takes patience, you know? A lot of people give up. They play for like 3 days and then they give up and they're like, well, the community's not big enough. It's like, yeah, we know, but when you give up so early, like, you know, the next guy gives up so early too, and it's like, this same thing with like people asking in Discord, like, "Whoa, how's the population? Is it better? I'll come play the game if the population is better." It's like, well, if every person who made that statement actually played the fucking game, the population would triple. Like, it's stupid. It's fucking stupid. That's game too hard, not enough people. The game is supposed to be hard, for one. It's supposed to be hard. And yeah, for two, there is not enough people, because people say there's not enough people and then they don't play when they could just play and then there would be more people. It's a perpetuating cycle. It's so stupid. I hate it so much when I open Discord and see that shit. I'm like, I have to close it because I just want to be like, the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard. Why don't you just play the game? Nobody's playing the game. Well, I want to play the game, but nobody else is playing the game. Like, it's just... it's fucking stupid. God, here I am just sitting on this fucking... just sitting on the screen. I need to end the stream at least for a second so that my YouTube video isn't stupid 3 fucking hours long. So I'll be right back. I guess we're gonna go kill some shit.